Storytellers. Well, it's going to be a fun night, and as Cory indicated, we do this all throughout the year with people from the community, just like y'all, who want to experience being in front of a crowd and telling their very personal stories. And when they come into the workshop, I only have 2 rules for every story. Well, other than it has to be at least loosely on theme. And our theme tonight is, as you probably have all seen, joining the club. The first rule of our storytelling here at StorySLAM is that they have to be absolutely true stories. Now, truth can be a little tricky, especially with memory, so true to the performer, something that at least they recall from their perspective, but not something fanciful or made up. So these are all going to be true stories, sometimes a little vulnerable from people's lives. The second part, the second rule rather, is that it be from their point of view and that they be the star, if you will, of the story. Other people will come and go throughout the story, but it's really focused on them because of all that vulnerability that is going to be presented to you. The storytelling workshops are a blast. I absolutely love them. People come in sometimes with full stories, they come in with a kernel of an idea, and by the time we go through the 3 workshops, we get to this final culmination, which is the presentation. So, I am just going to tell you just quickly that my name is Dayvid Figler. I am a recovered lawyer, meaning I don't do it much anymore. I am now a full-time podcaster. My parents, if they were with us, would be so very proud. And you can hear me daily on a podcast called CityCast Las Vegas, which is a lot of fun. We talk about culture and politics and food and all things Las Vegas with a team of Las Vegans, including my co-host Sarah Noonan, who is a wonderful food historian. And someday I'm going to get her up on this stage to tell a story of her and food because she's just really wonderful. But we also have 5 really wonderful performers here tonight. Our first performer, as I pull out and get it correct, is Alicia Mejia. And this is Alicia's 3rd StorySLAM. She is originally from Minneapolis. She has been in Las Vegas since 2008. And it is very safe to say that she believes in love for a living. Please welcome to the stage, Alicia. You would think that I would know this already, this being my 10th time doing this. Sorry about that, Nancy, my friend Nancy did. One other thing that we always do in these StorySLAMs, and this is just a very clever innovation that Charleston Heights Arts Center has put together, is that in addition to the storytellers, we also have a representative of a different artistic medium. And it's different all the time. Sometimes we have singers, sometimes we have dancers, and tonight we have an amazing visual artist, and she is going to be live painting a painting on theme, and then we're going to present it near the end of the show. So please welcome out Nancy Good, who's going to start. Nancy, I'm so excited about my storytellers. I know, I have to be reminded by Alicia. She's like, I'm coming out, but first you're going to bring Nancy. Anyway, so Nancy's going to tell you about her painting once it's done, but now let's bring to the stage, once again, Alicia.
From the proper elevation, the golden hour in Las Vegas is absolutely breathtaking. The way the light falls through the mountains and the golden haze just takes my breath away every single time. At this particular time, my elevation happened to be the footbridge that connects New York to Excalibur. My best friend Nicole and I had just left Wet Republic, where we had spent the entire day dancing our butts off underneath the hot Vegas sun. Coming from a very flat, very green Minneapolis only a couple of years earlier, one of the first things that I ever fell in love with in Vegas were the sunsets. The other thing I also fell in love with was the energy of this city. Something about Vegas to me always feels like either something really exciting is happening or something really exciting is about to happen. And that feeling was only amplified by my best friend, Nicole. Even though on paper she's 2 inches shorter than I am, she has one of those personalities that makes you feel like she's much taller. It might be her Italian side, it might be her Australian accent, but either way, whenever she's around, things just always feel so much more exciting. She is the very first person that I've ever met that could say with 100% confidence that she absolutely loves her life. And she's one of those people that is incredibly spontaneous, but always manages to have a plan at the same time. And 9 times out of 10, if she and I are out together, we will be the last 2 people on any given dance floor. Granted, I will be in my chucks and she will be in 3-inch heels, but whatever. On this particular day, though, we were both in flip-flops. It was very near the end of a nice hot summer, and so that footbridge was really packed with people. You had the guys that were out there hawking the water bottles. And I remember that there was this guitar player who was sitting cross-legged with his guitar in his lap, and he had one of those guitar cases that was flipped open. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, this guy must have been doing this for years, because his guitar case, the inside of it, had become bleached, this really interesting pink from the sun. I wish I could remember what song was playing, but it was at that moment that my phone buzzed. And even though we lived together, I hadn't heard from him in 2 weeks. The message was short, but it was far from sweet. I came back today to get my stuff. I don't remember if he wished me a happy birthday, but I do remember feeling like I got punched in the chest, and that my world was falling off of its axis in very slow motion. I couldn't find words. All I could do was hold up my phone so that Nicole could read the text. And for the woman who always has a plan, I could see the gravity of what was happening flash across her face. Just tell me what you want me to do. Just tell me what you need. Just what do you need me to do? Just tell me what do you need me to do? I wish I had an answer for her. He and I had had our problems, of course, but when I stepped onto that bridge, I still had hope. And by the time I made it to the other side, I didn't know what I had, besides a very broken heart. It's interesting to me because 2 years earlier, when I had left Minneapolis, I had also left behind a 13-year relationship. But this one hit different. And I'm of the opinion that relationships are harder when the endings are not our choice. And it's even harder when you want to tell yourself that you didn't see it coming. The last time I saw him, we were actually standing in the parking lot of Spearmint Rhino, which, for those of you who are not hip to the game, is a strip club. We had gone out with a big bunch of friends, and we had stopped by there because one of our friends worked security, and we had to pick them up on our way to wherever we were going. And the last thing I remember him saying to me was, "Mama, I'm so tired. Can't we just go home?" But I wasn't ready. I didn't want to go home. So while I went off with the rest of our friends, he went into Spearmint Rhino and happened to find someone that was more than willing to go home. I remember when I was little, I used to drive my mom crazy asking her why. She'd give me an answer, and I'd be like, yeah, but why? On and on. And even though I no longer had my mom to ask, I just started to ask the universe, why? Why is it that all these people around me could seem to figure out love and I can't seem to get it right? Now, if you're not from Vegas, you might be asking yourself, this is Sin City, what makes you think you were surrounded by love in the first place? But as it happens, I was actually working for Tiffany's at the time, Tiffany, the little blue box company. I was one of their first cohorts of home agents, which means that from my little snazzy home office that I got, so you could call the 1-800 number on their website, it would be me or one of my coworkers that would help you shop. And if you ever want your faith in humanity restored, just go work at Tiffany's for a while, because there's a lot of really nice people that buy a lot of really nice gifts for their people that they love. And so my days were spent helping people shop, pick out diamond rings and jewelry and all sorts of things. I used to say that I got to write love letters for a living because a part of working with people was right before we would help them check out, we would help them fill out their gift card. It's basically a tweet, right? 240 characters that display everything that you wanted to communicate to your gift recipient. Only now, with a broken heart and a half-empty apartment, my home office looked a lot different. Instead of being this happy person that couldn't wait to help you shop, I was answering the phone going, "This is Alicia, thanks for calling Tiffany's." And I was muting myself in between interactions because I could not stop crying. And if you could imagine now, this is me, bunny slippers, bathrobe, crazy cat lady, hair in a bun, tissues everywhere, and I'm trying to help people fill out their gift cards. "Dear, so you want the gift card to say, dear Jennifer, I love you so much, you're my world, Peter." Did I get that right? Okay. It didn't go well. But if that wasn't enough, I actually spent my nights in the wedding industry. For those of you who are not familiar with that, Las Vegas actually happens to be the wedding capital of the world. So I had no shortage of examples of real people in love all around me. And when you have a camera in your hand, I worked as both a photographer and a videographer, and when you have a camera in your hand, you get to be like very intimately engaged with these people. So I got to see what like the beautiful displays of love. Like Vegas is full of some of the most creative people that you'll ever meet if this is not a newsflash to you. But part of what this meant was like I could be around these people. We would do like elopements, right? Little groups of 4 people touching, everyone's crying, cool. We also would do like these magnificent displays of love. And my favorite example was we did this one wedding at the Venetian where we converted this whole like banquet space into a winter wonderland. So imagine, and this was July, mind you. So there was like crushed velvet everywhere, like all around the walls. They had these gigantic like red rose display, whatever, displays of roses, centerpieces on their table. I couldn't get my arms around them if I tried. And I tried because I love roses. But in the next room was the ceremony, right? And so same thing, very low light. They had like the aisle was lined with those lanterns that had the floating candles. It was magical, right? Stunning bride, beautiful ceremony. Everyone's crying, I am too, but not for the same reasons that everyone else is. And at that time, the minister goes, "The only thing that could make this more perfect is if it actually started to snow." And cue the snow. Now, mind you, things were taken off, and I was doing really well in the wedding industry as it happens, because I took a really like vested interest in these couples. I was fascinated, like what is it about this other person? How did you meet? What was it about the other person that attracted you to them? All these things, right? My sales like went through the roof. And one of the cool things about being a videographer is that when you buy like the deluxe package, what happens is your videographer will go out into your like wedding reception and pull people and say, "Do you have any well wishes that you'd like to leave for the bride and groom?" Only I started asking, "Do you have any advice for the bride and groom?" Because I was asking for myself. Fast forward a year, Nicole travels for a living. And she's one of those best friends where if you don't see her for months, like, it's fine. You just pick up exactly where you left off. It's no big deal. But when she came back and she saw me, she was like, "Oh, no, you need to call your boss. You need to tell him to F off. Like, he's not going to call you for 2 weeks. You're going to burn the candle like too long at both ends, and you need to take a break." I was still, a year later, still lost. I would have done whatever she told me to do. So a week into our like self-imposed staycation, my nervous system had finally started to relax. We had done some pool time, we'd gone out dancing. I mean, I was finally, after a year, starting to feel like myself again. And that's when it happened. Here I am, asleep in Excalibur, the tallest tower of the tallest castle, for whoever loves good Shrek reference, right? And I'm laying there when all of a sudden I hear this voice, loud as can be. "It's about the story," it says. And I sit up in bed because I was like, what the hell? I look around, she's in the next bed over, like dead asleep, wasn't her. I look at the clock, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, oh my God, what does this mean? I was never one of those people that knew what I wanted to be when I grew up, but I do know a download from the universe when I see it coming. And I was like, okay, I'm like, I'll do it, but it was a very Ricky Bobby moment. Like I had my download, but I didn't know what to do with it. I'm like, what does that mean? It's about the story. So I slowly started to ask all these couples whether or not they would be willing to talk to me. And I started to seek out what I call like the road worn ones. The ones that look like they had been through some shit and still chose love. And I started to ask them to explain their story. And little by little, over time, this evolved into a project that I call the Worldwide Love Story. And what we're now doing is we're collecting love stories, real stories of real people in love from all over the world who have been through some shit, but still chose love. All in the hopes that by sharing these stories that we can inspire even one person to give love another chance. Because if we all live long enough, we're all gonna have the honor of being in the Heartbreak Club in some capacity. But it's my hope that when we get there, we all have the fortitude to choose love. Thank you.
Let's keep it going for Alicia. When the story gatherer becomes the storyteller, it's a nice full circle. And she's doing great, and if you have a love story, catch her after the show and share it with her. And, you know, she also probably accepts jewelry from Tiffany's. Our next storyteller is Pam Noonan. Pam Noonan started life in Michigan and then found herself here. But that is another story slam. Today, she helps people find their joy through laughter yoga. Today, she's going to bring us to a Halloween costume contest of her past. This is her third story slam. Please welcome Pam Noonan.
So, the summer before my 13th birthday, my mother discovered a 12-step program, Al-Anon. She was so excited and overjoyed. She had found people who could share her secrets, who understood her traumas. They lived with an active alcoholic too. And she drank their Kool-Aid. It became her mission. She was zealous in her attempt to make sure that we all became the model 12-step family. My father and I resisted this to the best of our abilities, but she was persistent. There were flyers and pamphlets in the bathroom. They were taped to the front door. They were taped to the television screen. They were taped to the phone. When that didn't work, random people with their stories would show up at our house. That was weird. People didn't come to our house. We weren't the gather house. You had to have an appointment. There had to be a reason. There was planning way in advance because we had secrets. So we didn't let you in if you showed up. She was breaking all of the rules. Okay, so there are rules if you grow up in this house. You don't talk. You don't feel. You don't trust. You don't ask questions. For God's sakes, you don't join groups where you might randomly have a conversation and something might slip out and you want to invite them over. And you don't make mistakes. I knew the rules. I was a good girl. I sat in the back of the class. I made sure that I wore clothes that allowed me to blend into the scenery. I never asked a question, and I always had 3-word answers. I knew the rules. I was not going to drink the frickin' Kool-Aid. So my father and I donned our invisibility cloaks so he could avoid AA, and I could avoid LT. It became a struggle, a power of wills. I was really good. I feigned the greatest love for orchestra symphony music at the age of 13. to ride every week with my neighbor who went to the concert in the park all summer long. Yes, the concerts were at the same time as the Alicia meeting. I was good. My mom was better. Summer concerts come to an end. Halloween costume parties are fun, especially if you can win a prize. It's not really an LT meeting, Pam, she said. It's a party, she said. You could win a prize, she said. I will make you I won't make you because you can make shit, but I will get you the best costume where you can hide and win the prize, she said. I thought. Well, if I stayed in the background and I didn't speak, maybe I could win the prize. Okay, I'll go as long as I can be incognito. Incognito. Maybe I'll win a prize. The sun is setting. There are giant granite steps in front of me. And they all lead to this freakishly large, heavy, dark wooden door. And as I take my steps up and push my fear down, wrapped in my lace armor, this is okay, this is a good idea. Mom said this would be okay, so I'm gonna do this, and I'm just gonna sit in the background, but I'm gonna win the prize, I'm gonna win. I am gonna win, because and I get to the door, and there's laughter. There is joy coming from the other side of that door. And I open the door, and there's this giant Gothic room with a table this was the largest table I'd ever seen in my life. There were at least 20 seats around it. This was mind-boggling. There were two old ladies in the corner. I'm pretty sure they were about 40. There were a handful of kids, some older, some younger. They were laughing, freaks, and they were hugging each other. And I was oblivious to them. Or rather, they had no idea I was there. I'm like, I am shooing. I am standing in the archway with layers of red and black lace, and I had this magnificent flamenco dancer dress on with my black lace gloves that go up to my elbow. How elegant is that? I have this cascading veil that comes down over my face. So beautiful, the lace. And I am standing for the first time in grown-up, fancy, black high heels. And I am balanced. I'm sophisticated. I got this. You ever been anywhere where two worlds collide and you weren't expecting it? They turned. They noticed me. And I noticed them noticing me. This was not a costume party. My hands were like ice, and they were dripping with sweat. My gloves were constricting my fingers. My beautiful dress had turned to lead. My heart was pounding. My feet, I had been were wobbly, and yet they were glued to the floor. I don't remember much about the rest of that night other than I sat at the table, I said my name, I read something, and I pretended for the rest of the night to be there among them. I don't remember driving home, and I don't remember the conversation with my mother. I do, however, remember that I was humiliated. I was angry. How could you do this? How could you do this? Well, I'll tell you how she could do this. My mother was in a war, and this was a scrimmage. And she was good, because somehow, no, this is important. Somehow, that woman convinced me that because I had been in a costume, and because I had seen them, I would have a comfort level, and they didn't know who I was. And I went back. I was 13. I was devastated, and I went back. I don't remember the second meeting either very well. I remember I walked in, and people smiled, and somebody yelled, "Hey, the Lone Ranger!" Because a week before I had refused to take off my mask during the entire meeting. I don't know what happened after that, but something did. Because I went back the next week. And I went back every week for the next 4.5 years. I didn't want to go into that room. I didn't want to tell my story. Sure as hell didn't want to tell my dad's story. And yet, in that room, I found safety. I found courage. I found a voice. At the age of 15, my father joined AA. When I was 15, not so he found AA, and I had found a new path. I had become, from the little girl that hid and blended and didn't say a word, I had become a North American speaker for Alicia. I spoke at AA conventions all over. I had found a voice, and I could do it without a mask, and I could do it without a costume. I could do it in front of those people. This program tonight, my parents aren't here any longer, but this program forced me to look at some things that I had never looked at before. And so, I will always be grateful to that Halloween costume party. I will always be grateful to the people in that room. And I will always be grateful to StorySLAM for allowing me to find the missing pieces of my story and then share some of it here with you tonight. Thank you.
Gets me choked up when she gives out the thank yous, and that's really the cohort, you know, all the storytellers being in the space together as they're developing it through the workshop. being vulnerable with each other, sharing each other's stories, giving each other feedback. It's really a delightful process. Although I will say that the theme being join the club, after everyone's stories sort of took shape, I said that I was a little sad that no one had a cult story. And then Pam went, well. Our next storyteller to stage is Jen. Jen Nails was born and raised here in Las Vegas. She escaped for a little bit, but she wound up back here, as so many of us do. She is an author and a public librarian. I'm just gonna take a second. Shout out for all the public librarians. She loves the desert and all that her city has to offer in outdoor advertising. This story is dedicated to her sons and her dad. This is her third story slam. Welcome to the stage, Jen Nails.
If you are a little bit like me, when you had those milestone birthdays, like the ones with the 0 at the end, like say 50, I don't know where I got that number, you might look at your life and think about things that you've done and haven't done and wished you'd done and wished you hadn't done. I don't know what it is about that 0 that makes us, me anyway, do that, but we do. Last fall, I turned 50, and last spring, I found myself lugging footballs, cones, flags, coffee, bagels, and fruit to the little field at the park near my house. I was gonna meet up with 9 other women. We were all cranky humans of varying shapes, sizes, and athletic abilities. We were divorced, married, never been married, all with kids. And we were going to gather to do something weird and fun, play flag football. And when you find yourself doing something that maybe you never thought you would be doing, at the tender age of 50, you might ask yourself, how did I get here? Well, I think for me, upon turning 50, I looked back at my life, starting with around 10 years old, and then I counted by 10s up to the present. And when I think of 10 years old, my 2 most prominent memories are the smell of tomato sauce and the sound of the NFL theme song. Da, 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 da! Dun 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 dun! Dun 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 dun! Dun 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 dun! Yes. My mom and my dad and my sister and I would shovel in forkful after al dente forkful of lasagna, ravioli, spaghetti, gnocchi, handmade by my dad, while John Madden's voice boomed through our zenith, and we enjoyed the most delicious, freshest Italian food in the world as we maintained our weekly early afternoon Sunday tradition. My dad was a football coach growing up. He coached middle school and high school, and this was back when young athletes did not have entertainment agents, when students still wore Converse, high tops on the basketball court, and my dad had played baseball and basketball and ran track and did wrestling, but his main dish had always been football as a player and as a coach. And counter to our dad's passions, my sister and I were the band nerds and the theater geeks. We were the journalism and the student council kids. From about 10 to 20 years old, I became the artsy girl, and I was in gymnastics, and they did dance and marching band, and I was in all the plays, and my short story, Aaron the Aardvark, was published in a student writers magazine. And from about 20 to 30 years old, I started to slowly but surely but mediocrely make my living as a writer. I wrote stories and poems and plays and scripts. And I remember during this decade, it's weird to pull out just one singular evening in a whole decade, but it was like in my late 20s. And I remember it was an evening that I was meeting with friends and we were going to a bar, and everybody wanted to be watching a college football game that was gonna be on. And I had no interest. I was in the arts. I had not been indoctrinated. I was not drinking Gatorade. And I was commiserating with my friend Amy that night at this bar. And I distinctly remember this moment where I exactly said and did this. I was like, all I know about football is they go like this. I was in the arts. I had no interest. From 30 to 40 years old, I started writing novels, and I would publish my first novel when I was 34, and my next one would come out when I was 42. I'm on the fast track to fame, as you can tell. And around this time, 30 to 40, I would start lingering in the room to watch a play on Sunday or Monday night. And then pretty soon I was watching a whole series, and then all of overtime. And I think when I reached my late 40s, something shifted. I still was who I was. I was going to continue to be this person, but my sons began playing flag football, and I volunteered to coach. And I think that it had to have been 90% enthusiasm, 5% knowledge, and 5% luck. But our first season, we went 5-3, okay? And I started watching lots and lots and lots of football, and I realized that I love football! I had always loved football. It was tied to family and fresh pasta and tradition. I know that I'm never gonna win a football trophy, and I'm never gonna play a professional sport. But I have learned over the last year of playing flag football with the Moms League every month that I'm not really ever gonna be exactly who I am right now, even having made it to 50. You never know how much more of yourself you can become and celebrate when you reach back into your younger self and pull out a piece that got lodged, like a little bit of fennel in a back tooth from that last bite of Italian sausage. Thank you.
You know the routine. Keep it over Jen. Let's hear it. All right. Our next storyteller is a dear friend of mine, and I was so pleased to see her when she showed up to the first of our workshops. Suzanne Hackett-Morgan has been a resident of Las Vegas since 1992, although Las Vegas has figured into her life since the early 1960s as a child in the back seat of the family station wagon, crossing the Mojave en route to some western destination. This is Suzanne's first Story Slam. Please welcome to the stage, Suzanne Hackett-Morgan.
Sorry, I got you. All good? All right. I was in Burbank at my parents' house. I just graduated from undergrad in Western Washington, and I got this news simultaneous. I'd been accepted into the prestigious Master of Fine Arts program in creative writing at the University of Montana in Missoula. Go Grizz. And then the same day, I read in the LA Times of the death of Richard Hugo, the poet that I was focused on studying with there. Yeah. Well, I decided to go to Montana anyway, even though I was disappointed. And Hugo, it was dead. I'm sure he was more disappointed than I was. Even though I had no real idea or respect for what it meant to be in a graduate writing program, let alone one of the best in the country. I was just, part of my charmed life. What could go wrong? I smirked. So I flew in January of 1983 from Burbank to Missoula. I had to go through Denver and transfer to one of those needle planes. I don't know other way to describe it, but it's all the seats are in one row going the length of the fuselage, which was pretty strange. It was cold when I landed, probably 30 degrees, and for Burbank, that's really cold, like really terrible. So my first night there, I was spending it in a cold, charmless, utilitarian motel by the airport, and it was just awful. Well, school wasn't much better. The whole English department was in disarray after Hugo's death, and nobody wanted to play poetry ball with me or anybody else. It was really depressing. So, being a young person, 22, I had to find something to make this make sense. There was an ad in the student newspaper. Do you want to meet guys and drink beer? Or maybe it was the other way around. Maybe the beer came first. And I thought, this is how my happier life in the snow is going to start. I just showed up. It's not unlike the way I exited the bus in Livingston, Montana on my way to summer employment in Yellowstone. You just sort of show up. They seemed they would embrace anybody for their team. I qualified. Not a big girl, never terribly athletic. I smoke, I drink, but damn, I wanted it. Something to be part of. And it was a subculture unlike anything that I'd ever really encountered. It made a heck of a lot more sense in terms of joy and fun than did the English department at that time. And as a poetry student, perhaps I had a knack for writing the body lyrics of our original rugby songs. Let me demonstrate. Someday my prince will come. He'll really give me some, and he won't be too early or late. So he won't make my wait. So I won't have to That was my big hit in 1983. Thank you. A lot of the girls were married to the men's club side. They were called the Missoula All-Maggots. And yeah, it was cool. And the ladies dubbed themselves the better side, which is what a side is what the team is called in rugby. The better side. Well, me being very literal, I thought it meant better half. Like, they're married to the men, and they're the better half. The better side. Not true. What I was really getting out of being out there was being in the landscape, and in that beautiful, crisp air, that we never get in Burbank. And I enjoyed, all of the colors of the field, the sort of, wheat-colored grass after winter, the beautiful cold out of the sky. I enjoyed putting on the uniform. It was an orange body with black and orange striped sleeves. To be honest with you, I think because they didn't have any money, I think these were jerseys nobody else wanted. So We took them. We had long black over-the-knee socks. We had sturdy black barbarian canvas shorts, over-the-ankle boots with actual cleats. Cleats, yes. And I was running around with a bunch of girls, learning how to do the things I was expected to do, learning what I was kind of good at. In truth in advertising, there were dozens of physical guys running about, and there was the one that caught my eye. He had a squat frame. He had a mane of wavy golden locks, missing teeth, a firm butt, and strong legs. He kind of had a faraway look in his eyes, which made me think he was deep. He had a powerful way of slamming into the scrum from the tight head prop position, if you know where it be, right? Everything about him entranced me. From the back, he looked like Van Morrison, my true love. Well, I had fantasies about finding a boyfriend who would let her in art. I really wanted someone who was deeply committed to something, and in his case, it was the sport. He had a broad chest I have imagined crying into. He had strong arms, and he had hands ending in thick sausage fingers. Unlike the other guys on the team, Pagey, Sweetheart, Skidmark, Squeak, Hollywood, Caveman, Puss. My guy needed a no nickname. He just was himself through and through. I asked him how we got together once, and he said he was selected. A bunch of people, maybe even including Sherry, our captain, told him there's this really good-looking girl who wants to make your night. And that was May 7th in 1982 at my very first Maggot Ball, which is the Friday before the first day of Maggot Fest. Maggot Fest is a legendary weekend rugby tournament attracting teams from across the Montana Rugby Union state, but also from Canada and California. And the colorful names were dearer. We have the Bozeman Deer Slayers, the Kalispell Moose, the Helena Blue Pigs, the Butte Crabs. On the women's side, we have the Eugene Housewives, the Seattle Sea Dykes, and of course the Wazoo Stud Muffins. The ball was a costumed pageant of beer-drenched debauchery, punctuated that year by the arrival of the Jasper Dregs from Canada. And they arrived in a cardboard Viking ship that they carried like this, and kilts. And this was held at this bar downtown that I don't think is there. Never to take my eyes off him. I watched as he bent over and lit a blue flame of methane out the back of his shorts. It was a revelation for me. So apparently neither of us had a car that night. So we walked hand in hand through downtown Missoula and across the Higgins Street Bridge over the Clark Fork River. And we made it to my apartment. It was a gothic 1906 brick apartment building, very gothic and good for a poet, very romantic. A short stair led down into my apartment, which was dominated by this large built-in piece of hardwood headboard out of which rolled a queen-size bed. My guy remembers that it squeaked a lot. I asked him what else he remembers about the room, and he says he really wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to that at the time. He dropped his shorts and thought, holy shit, this is really gonna happen. He had to leave early in the morning to make the chili for the Maggot Fest, which was starting at 8 a.m. The better side was also scheduled to play, and I was beaming. I think this was the game where I scored my first try, or touchdown. And I celebrated in the end zone by tearing off my jerseys before my teammates circled around me and shrieked, "No, no, 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 you do the Zulu at the party, not on the field." Oh, my bad. Sorry. Well, in a nutshell, after taking my Montana treasure boy to Burbank to meet my parents and to go to the LA Olympics in 1984, took him to the Magic Castle, took him to Disneyland. You know, those are our cultural touchstones. Well, my parents were very happy with my choice of fella, and my mom especially. She you know, he was kind of a bore and very uncommunicative and selfish. So I had to make a decision. I wasn't, if you can't tell, I was kind of like focused on rugby, not necessarily poetry. So kind of my grades were kind of like that. But I was really feeling like I wanted to draw. I wanted to paint. I was responding to something really new in Montana. I mean, there's no landscape like it. I mean, we have our own beautiful one here, but there's nothing like it up there in the light. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just switch my major. So I made an appointment with the dean of the College of Fine Arts, and I said as earnestly as I could that I wanted to switch my major from poetry to painting, having no clue that this was just not done. It was like, please sir, I want some more. More? Never before has a boy wanted more. I showed him my earnest but flimsy portfolio, including a painting I had done in Painting 101 of a dried up sunflower head, where I just let the paint do what paint does. And that was a revelation. But the dean wasn't buying it one bit. Susan, do you really think you're ready for graduate level painting? Of course, I said enthusiastically. Well, I don't. Oh, that was that. So, I made a promise to myself. I had to leave grad school. I didn't have any more money, and things weren't going so good with Logan anymore, and I couldn't go back home because I was like I think I had asked my dad. No, vice versa. My dad asked me, what do you need to make this wrap it up? Wrap it up. I said, oh, I'm thinking, I don't know, $250,000? And he goes, you're kidding. And I'm like, what? Well, he goes, you're gonna get 20,000, make it work out. So, try to make it work out. It's hard when you keep buying the object of your affection lousy pickup trucks and things like that. So, I decided I had to go to work and get me some money. I ended up taking an internship in Helena, Montana, working for Mountain Bell, which is the home company. But the coolest thing is I made a promise to myself. You paint on your own for 10 years. Then you can go back to school. And I was lucky to get a gig for the summer painting a mural in a bar in Helena on Last Chance Gulch called the Rialto. And it's still there, even though they never knew who did it. I said, it was just me. But I think the good thing is that I did eventually go back to graduate school in art, just to give you that there's a happy ending. Not an MFA program, an MA program, as my professor was always telling me, you wouldn't have got into the MFA program. Yeah, we know. But I think it's a good story about persevering knowing what you want, know what you want, and then just go after it and go do it. So thank you.
Suzanne, Hackett-Morgan. All right, as Nancy Ray continues to do her magic, we're going to bring up your final storyteller of the evening, and then we're going to hear from Nancy. Richard Munchkin spent his professional life in two worlds, the entertainment business and professional gambling. Of course, both of these have led to a story or two. He is a StorySLAM regular and favorite. Please welcome to the stage, Richard Munchkin.
So I'm 20 years old, and I'm in a bar playing backgammon with Jerry the dentist. And Jerry says to me that he has just come back from Las Vegas, and he has a system for beating blackjack. Now, I discovered gambling at about 15, and I was obsessed with it, and I read everything I could find about it, and my heroes had names like Titanic Thompson and Amarillo Slim. So when Jerry says he has a system for beating blackjack, I kind of roll my eyes and go, yeah, right. And he says, no, this is real. Like, this is based on math. You can actually have an advantage at blackjack by counting cards. And he tells me about a book called Playing Blackjack as a Business. So he describes it to me, and I think, this sounds plausible. Like, maybe this could be true. And I order the book, and I get it, and I read it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is real. This is math. Like, there is a demonstrable edge to be had by doing this. And now I become obsessed. So every night, I'm down in my basement, dealing cards myself, learning basic strategy and how to count cards. And for my 21st birthday, my gift to myself was 3 nights and 4 days in fabulous Las Vegas. And I came out here and I won about $200, and I thought, oh my God, like I don't even really know how to count yet, and I won this much money. Just think how much money I'll make once I can actually count cards. So I decided I'm gonna finish college, I'm gonna come out to Las Vegas and make $1 million gambling. And I finish college and I move out here, and I don't have a lot of money. So I decided, all right, I'm gonna get a job as a blackjack dealer, and that way I can practice counting 8 hours a day while I'm dealing. And then that's what I do, and I go out after work, and I play after work. And back then you could bet $2, so I'm betting like from $2 up to maybe $10. And it's going fine. And one day, another card counter comes into the casino and he says, hey, there's a guy from Australia who is a professional card counter, and he has a big team. And he happens to want to play backgammon for a lot of money. And I said, great, set that up, because I knew all of the best backgammon players in the world, and none of them were from Australia. So we set up to meet in a couple of days, and he's staying on a big comp at the Desert Inn. And I get there, and the first thing he says to me when I arrive is, I've done some calling around, and I hear that I'm outclassed, so I don't want to play backgammon for a lot of money. And I said, well, hey, we can play for small stakes and, have a good time. And he's got his whole team there, and so it turns into a big party. Every day I go over there, we ordered up lots of room service and play backgammon for small stakes, and we bonded really quickly over backgammon and blackjack. And after about a week, he says to me, how come you're not playing blackjack for more money? And I said, well, I don't have a lot of money, I don't have a bankroll, so I'm just kind of working my way up. And he says, how about I put up $20,000 and you play and you double the money and then we split it? And I said, you've known me for a week and you're gonna give me $20,000 to gamble with and let you know how I do? And he reaches into his coat and pulls out 2 stacks of $10,000 and slides them across the table to me. And so I started playing for more money. And every time I went out and played, I lost. And I kept thinking I must be doing something wrong, so I would go back to the other team members and I would say, you gotta come sit with me and show me what I'm doing wrong, because I keep losing. And 3 times they came out with me and they would check the way I was counting, how I was playing, and at the end, and I would lose. And at the end they would say, no, you did everything right, you're just getting unlucky. You know, stick with it, it'll turn around. Well, after about 6 weeks of this, Alan comes to me, Alan the Australian, and he says, look, I'm really sorry we have to stop our deal because I have to go back to Australia. And I said, Alan, I'm the one who's sorry. I feel awful. I've lost like $15,000 of your money. He says, don't worry about it. Join the team. You know, it'll turn around. You're just getting unlucky. And I told my friends, I said, look, I quit this. I'm staying with my job. Maybe I'm the unluckiest blackjack player in the world, or I really suck at the game, but I'm just gonna stick with my job. One of my other friends joined the team and he kept playing with them. And after about 2 months, he came to me and he goes, look, you gotta give this another try. He said, we're making money like crazy. And the more that we win, the more we bet, and the more we bet, the more we win. Just give it another shot. So I said, okay, I'll do it again. So I went out and I started playing and I did everything exactly the same way I was doing it before, only now I started winning. And the more I won, the more I bet, the more I bet, the more I won, and pretty soon I was making more money playing blackjack than I was dealing it. And so I quit the job. So for 40 years, I got to travel around the world and make a living playing cards. And I really couldn't have asked for anything more than that. Thank you.
And kids, if there's one thing you should take away from tonight's storytelling, is that there is no downside to gambling. Go ahead. Continue the tradition. Thank you. Well, Nancy, how close are we?
Well, we're where we are.
Well, I think that's what art is. Nancy, can you tell us a little bit about the painting and how it fits into the Join the Club theme? Oh, first of all, I want to just give you a little bit of an introduction. Nancy Good is also a good friend. She is a fantastic, obviously, artist. Her work is actually quite diverse and interesting, and she not only is a gifted artist in our community, but she also helps so many other artists and is the owner and curator of a fantastic gallery that everyone should go check out, especially when they do your shows down in the commercial center, called Core Contemporary. Yeah. So let's give it up for Nancy Good.
Gonna pull this out of here. So, as you can say, as you can already see, it's kind of bizarre and weird and wonderful, and that is really my focus for art, as far as interpreting how bizarre, weird, and wonderful we are as human beings. So I'm in the human club, and I tend to mix and meld and weave the biological aspects of us, the silly aspects of us, the surprising and unexpected aspects of us into very unexpected paintings. Nothing is ever planned out ahead of time unless I'm doing a specific commission for something. And tonight, some of you probably saw it before I started painting, I had already preset the paintings. There's 2 canvases, so it's going to be a diptych. with airbrush, because I knew I couldn't really bring an air compressor on the stage while people were trying to tell their stories. So I preset with some of my elements that I go to, which are, you know, weird biological kind of space alien sort of stuff, and things that are floating, and then I go in and start weaving more things in there. And this piece is not done, so I will actually bring it back to my studio. You're welcome to follow me on social media if you want. Nancy Good, well, it's at Nancy Good _art. To see the progress of this, because I post all of my studio's time on social media as well as YouTube. And so this is a start of expressing all the things that I was hearing from love, and so my color choices were, you know, in the kind of those love, warm colors of reds and, you know, make you feel good. And then even the greens of the football field and the Montana, which I also lived 20 years in Montana, so Suzanne and I have some similar stomping grounds. And I'm also Al-Anon, so I was like, my gosh, could not have had a better night for storytelling. I'm not a card player, so, but I do love this town, and I do understand that it's a very dynamic way that people live. So anyway, this will finish later, but for now it is what it is, and I'm a member of the Human Club just like you.
Thank you, Nancy. I think she sums up best why we're doing this storytelling, because it is the common threads of human condition. And boy, all of the storytellers tonight surely hit on that theme. So let's bring them all out one more time so we can get a big round of applause. Storytellers, Alicia, and Jen, and Richard, here comes Pam. And breaking up the rear, Suzanne. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank the staff of Charleston Country. They've been amazing, especially the crew tonight. Cory is fantastic. Please do sign up and take our workshop and be right here on our stage next August. Again, on behalf of all the storytellers and myself, thank you so much for coming. Thank you. I know, right? You're in the groove.
Hello, familiar face. Hey, how are you? I don't know. Oh yeah, I should stop my live feed too. It's like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's, I don't even know how to stop. Do you know how to stop a live YouTube? Maybe the X? Yep, okay.